The Central Coast of California is made up of so many amazing and beautiful things. The obvious, of course, is our beautiful beaches, missions, and extensive amount of wineries. But there is so much to know and learn about the Central Coast. What do you consider to be the Central Coast, and what would you like to enlighten others about our Central Coast? Please join me and my guests as we take a moment to enlighten you about Ventura, Santa Barbara, San Luis Obispo, and Monterey counties. Please join me as I enlighten you on a couple of topics that you might not have known about until now. Hello and welcome everyone. Today I am so excited to enlighten you all about the Pismo Beach Jazz Jubilee. The Jazz Jubilee has been going on for 44 years. And with the pandemic, the organizer just did not have it in her heart to cancel it. So they are going to be bringing you the 44th annual virtual Jazz Jubilee. Rhonda Cardinal, the Basin Street Regulars chairwoman, has embraced technology and for over the past 4 months has taught herself and her crew to do their own live streaming performances in her own backyard. The team has done an amazing job of getting their past participants that would normally attend the actual event to follow them on Facebook and to watch their shows live on YouTube and Facebook. Jazz tends to draw an older crowd, so this was not an easy task, and I give props to Rhonda and her team for making this happen and embracing live streaming. Noble Productions will be assisting them with their streaming on October 24th and 25th from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. The virtual Jazz Jubilee by the Sea will be a combination of performances, both live and pre-produced. Unfortunately, this event will not be open to the public. However, you can still support the virtual Jazz Jubilee by the Sea by tuning in to either their Facebook or their YouTube channel. Stay tuned for more as Sonny Leyland, who will be the Master of Ceremonies, interviews Rhonda Cardinal.
So, all right, here I am, Sonny Leyland with Rhonda Cardinal, and we're going to talk about the Jazz Jubilee. And let me start. When was the event established, and who was involved with that?
So the Jazz Jubilee is put on by a jazz society called the Basin Street Regulars. And the Basin Street Regulars started in 1976. And the first Jazz Jubilee, it was called Jubilee by the Sea. We've changed the name a little bit, but it was known as Jubilee by the Sea for many years. And the first festival was actually 1977. So almost as soon as this club formed, they immediately jumped into running a festival, which to me is unbelievable. but that's what happened. So this will be 2020 is our 44th year of continuous festivals.
And I know you are intimately involved with the organizing and planning of the festivals. Can you tell us something about that?
I'm the festival director, which means I have the responsibility of making that festival happen. 2015 was my first year, so I took this over from George Smith in 2015. Back in previous years when George was running it, one time I said something like, wow, it must be really cool to run this festival, or what a challenge that must be, or I said something, and then he said, well, would you like to do it? I said, well, no, because I'm working. I could never do it while I'm working, but maybe when I retire I will think about it. And so then like 3 months after I retired, he gave me the festival. So I've been doing it since pretty much January of 2015 is when he gave me the reins.
Gotcha. But you had been attending the festival as a listener since back in the 90s, yeah?
Well, my husband's parents were big fans of all the jazz festivals that were happening in the 80s, and they attended several of them, but Pismo was local to them. They lived in Huntington Beach, and so we would travel we would go to events with them in Huntington Beach where they lived, and then we traveled to Pismo because we were living in Long Beach at the time. We traveled to Pismo with them a few times and camped at Pismo Coast Village and became familiar with the area. So we attended in the 80s. We attended when our daughter was a baby. We attended when our daughter was pretty young. And then we found this to be a very nice area because of coming to the festival. And so then a job opportunity opened up. And so then we moved up here in 1999. And we've been attending, we started attending regularly. We got involved with the club, which we hadn't been before. And I was actually president of the Basin Street Regulars prior to my retirement for about 5 years. So we became very involved with the club once we moved to the area.
Okay, all right. Well, have you seen like an evolution with the festival since you've been involved? Is there anything you could comment on there?
Well, one problem we've had, there has been a lot of attrition. So the festivals that are doing well are still doing well, and they're still popular, but it's not so much that the festivals have changed as the number of festivals have changed. So we've lost some of our audience, and therefore some of these festivals haven't been sustainable, and so we have fewer than we did. And as a result, the festivals that are left are very well attended. And so you see a shrinking of the pool, but then the remaining festivals get a lot of attendance and can hire a lot of bands and be very strong.
Right. I mean, I think that's key, adapting to the situation and not trying to be something that you're not.
Yeah.
So how about COVID? And obviously we're not having a conventional festival this year, but we're having one.
Yeah, so because of the way that we do Pismo, you know, we're not a festival in one venue, which is a blessing and a curse. And we don't have to put a bunch of money up front for a particular facility. We have usually 4 or 5 venues, and we put a deposit on them, and then we pay for them at the end. So it did take us, we held out for a long time before we had to go virtual. And we waited to see what the situation would be. And there was, for a long time, a possibility that we would be able to do it like we normally do, maybe with fewer attendees. But after a while, it became obvious that we were not going to be able to get our venues. In particular, some of our venues belong to the different cities. We have a county facility, 2 Pismo Beach facilities, and an Arroyo Grande facility. And the cities have not allowed anybody to rent right now, and they are not going to be allowed to. So if for nothing else, we just had no place. So then we decided to go virtual, and then we had to find a location. And we actually are going to be using the St. Anthony's facility, which we have used in the past. People know it as Turks. Mm-hmm. There was Turks and Lou's. We're going to be using Turks. It's a big covered area at a private facility in Pismo Beach, not far from the vets. And we're going to do a live stream. We're going to bring bands in. We're going to do a live stream from there. And then we will also have gotten some pre-recorded videos for bands that are just, we can't afford, and we can't have people traveling from out of state right now. You know, if they're not driving, we didn't want to fly anybody in because we really can't have an audience of the extent that we've had in the past. So, you know, 1,300 people, I mean, that's a lot of badges. That helps pay for all that travel, and we can't do that. So we've limited it to local bands that can drive in, and then we've solicited videos, and we've been very successful at getting videos from our usual bands. So what we're hoping to do is a mixture of live performances, pre-recorded performances. Of course, Sonny, you're going to be our master of ceremonies. And we expect some vignettes from you, and then some friend sets. We have some very special friends we're bringing in. And we also have Gary Ryan, who's another local well-known musician, and he's going to do a Friends set, and then some of the bands that don't have to travel very far. And we are hoping to bring Tom Rigney in live, but we're not sure yet. We'll know as it gets closer. So
Gotcha.
we're trying to be really flexible in our programming between live and video. And if the bands can make it, great. And if they can't, we have video. So it's just going to probably be a surprise by the time it happens. We probably won't know until right before it happens.
Right, right. Well, I think that's about it for the list of questions. Do you have anything you want to say about bands that have appeared over the years? Who would you say are some of the more well-known names?
So bands that are well associated with Pismo that we try to bring back year after year, the Madiri Brothers, Cornet Chop Suey, Tom Rigney, High Sierra. These are all bands that are associated with the Pismo Festival. We have tried also to bring in some younger bands and some more female or different ethnicities and women-run bands. So last year we had Tuba Skinny, which was kind of a big deal for us to get them, and that was very well received. They were not part of the lineup for 2020, but the fact that we got them was kind of exciting for us. We have a local musician, Molly Reeves. She came out of Morro Bay. She was part of, our local group of young people, and she moved to New Orleans. She has several bands that we brought, and last 2 years we had the Shake 'em Up Jazz Band, which is an all-woman band that is very popular. We had also featured at the other end of the spectrum, Pat Yankee. She had been there every year. Last year was her last year because she just couldn't travel anymore. And we were actually hoping to get a video with her and Bob Schulz, and then she was not able to do that. We tried for that, but she was not able to.
Too bad.
And Night Blooming Jasmine is another band that had been around forever, and then last year was their last year. So we did some things last year that I feel very good about, and one of them was featuring Pat Yankee and Night Blooming Jasmine. And I'm glad we were able to do that because, of course, this year we're not able to bring any of the big bands like that.
Right.
So yeah, those are. And Blue Street is another band that's well known and that has been to most of the festivals. And we actually have Dave Ruffner coming in as a guest artist. So you'll be able to see Dave in person on live stream, and then Maddie and Sherry from Blue Street are going to do a video.
Oh, very cool. Yeah. You had Maria Moldauer a couple of years back.
That was
it, or 3?
that was 2015. So that was kind of my brainchild. I had told George that. Well, you see, Maria Moldauer performs locally quite a bit normally, and she does a lot of different kinds of music. And I knew that she knew that style. I knew she knew traditional jazz, and so I approached her about doing our festival. That was the first year I did it, and she agreed to that. And that was a very interesting experience, bringing a big name to the festival, and we learned a lot of things, and she enjoyed it, and we enjoyed it. And I know she'd be happy to come back if we asked her again.
Nice.
And so, and you never know, we might do that again.
Cool.
Yeah. So this is a kind of a difficult year. We're trying to make it work. Whatever income we get from this festival is really going to get passed to the musicians. We've tried to keep our expenses very low. So that if we make whatever money we can over our expenses, we can pass to the musicians. I think in the future, we've all learned about live streaming, and that's been a big education for us. And I think for future years, you might see smaller festivals with a live streaming component. I think the festivals that really want to continue are learning about this technology, and I think that there's going to be audience members that are going to benefit from it, that are going to want to do that, who either can't or won't travel in the future. And so I think you're going to see a combination of live and virtual performances.
Right.
in all areas of music and performance, not just jazz. So I think that's good because it allows us to reach a broader audience, and it allows people to feel safer wherever they are. And it allows us to keep having music festivals with and let people feel safe.
Well, right, and for those older folks that have come for many years and then all of a sudden reach a point where they can't travel anymore, they can still be connected and enjoy the festival.
Yes, and I see that people who never thought they would be online have learned how to get online. And so that's really pushed the envelope of what people are willing to do, because that's the only way they can see what they want to see. And so we're going to probably capitalize on that and continue that in the future, for the foreseeable future.
Right, very good.
Okay, well,
I guess that wraps it up, huh?
Yeah, well, it was really good for you to come over and talk, and I appreciate your time, and I look forward to seeing you at our festival.
Well, thank you, and thanks for everything you do, Rhonda.
You're most welcome.
So we have Joe and Paul Maderi here, live via the Zoom meeting, and wonderful to see you guys' faces. And we're going to have a treat. You're going to play a little bit for us in a while, but how are you doing?
Oh, we're doing pretty good. Considering everything that's happened, better on the East Coast than you are doing on the West Coast.
Yes, yeah, things are kind of smoky here, and that's beginning to get old, certainly. But luckily,
the news feeds are unbelievable. It's just, who would ever thought?
Yeah, it's a whole lot of bad stuff happening at once. Gosh, who'd have ever thought we'd live through something like that? I mean, you were just telling me that pretty much all of your income has been taken away, despite the fact that you had 3 different ways of earning. Now with COVID, they've all been shut down. So tell us about that.
Well, Joe and I both teach privately, and of course we can't, right now. And I used to teach, I live in Delaware. I used to teach in New Jersey, and then most of the last, what has it been, how many months? 7 months, 6 months?
Since March.
Since March, most of the time there's been a travel ban between New Jersey and Delaware.
Crazy.
Mostly from the New Jersey end.
Yeah, the governor of New Jersey keeps issuing quarantines where people can't travel between Delaware and New Jersey. Of course, Paul lives in Delaware. We're down at his house in Seaford, Delaware, and I live in New Jersey. And so this is only the second time I've seen my brother since March. They lifted the quarantine for about a week, 4th of July weekend. I came down to visit them 4th of July weekend, and then just recently they lifted the quarantine again. So this is only the second time, as I said, I've seen him since March. And I'm embarrassed to say I've never taken the time to thank the governor for that. And it's just actually, I have an unfair advantage. You see, I can't forget what he looks like. All I have to do is look in the mirror and imagine myself 5 years from now, and there he is.
Oh man, that's great. Well, gosh, I mean that's amazing. We haven't, had any of those series of quarantines here. Maybe we need them, I don't know. But anyway, we're glad you're there together today, and thanks for making the drive. I know it was about 3 hours for you to get together, so that's considerable.
Well, I'll tell you, it's going to be awful strange for us when October rolls around and we're not going out to Pismo, because we're going to miss it very much.
I identify you guys with the Benny Goodman small groups. That's what, when I hear you, that's the style I think of, but I know you do so much more than that. I mean, how would you describe your own style?
That's where we started. When Joe and I were in high school, we started playing. I've told the story before. We started playing when we were 16 years old. That was the first we had an instrument. And about the same time, we heard Benny Goodman on the radio playing live from the Palladium in London. This would be in 1976, New Year's Eve, 76. And we had never heard the music before, and we had been just given our instruments. And my first instrument, believe it or not, was trumpet. And Joe had a clarinet. And we heard Goodman Come On playing that Let's Dance theme song. And I honestly, the hair on the back of my neck stood up. What is this? I loved it from the beginning. And when Benny started to play, my brother turned to my mother and said, "What instrument is that?" And my mother said, "Clarinet, the same as you just brought home." We didn't know. So that was our first inspiration. And in some ways, that was a good thing because Benny was such a perfectionist that it drove us to want to be the same way on our respective instruments. But I guess part of our quest is you always want to be learning. Up until the COVID, I had been studying percussion from a young man. He's half my age. I had been studying classical percussion for the last 4 years up until the COVID came. So just trying to become a better player and know my instrument better.
Right. Now, did you get to play with any of your heroes?
Yes, quite a few. And you know, I had to say, when my brother and I were younger, we were quite shy, you know, and I wish I asked more questions, when I played with these people. The one thing, because I don't want to. I always feel funny saying who I played with or who I met, but I'll mention a few names. You know, Paul and I worked. You know, we had Bob Havens, Herbie Green, Lionel Hampton. I actually recorded with Hampton. One thing,
Dick Hyman.
Dick Hyman's another one.
Buggy Fitzgerald.
Buggy Fitzgerald. They were all really nice people. Beyond being wonderful musicians, they were the nicest people, you know, and I think Paul and I, the musicians that we've gotten to meet and play with over the years, that's the real blessing, is spending time with these people, you know, just the warmth and their willingness to, you know, share their time with you. It just,
I don't know if you could see this, because you were talking about heroes we got to play with. This might be hard to see, and you might get a reflection. I don't know. Can you see that, or is it too?
It does have a reflection. I can't
How's
make
that?
out who it is. But
That's my brother and I in our 20s.
I see you guys in front. Yeah.
Yeah, with our first band. Joe and I were in our 20s. The guitar player was an old 31 at that time, but the bass player was 71. And he had worked with, you'll appreciate this, he had worked with Fats Waller. And whenever Fats Waller would come to Philadelphia, he'd use a local band. And he got to play with Fats whenever Fats came to town. And the stories he told were wonderful about Fats. And he said Fats was supposed to be recorded with them. And of course, he went out west to make Stormy Weather, and on the way back, he died. But he was this close to recording with Fats, you know. So, you know, when Joe and I were coming up, and we worked with the older musicians, or like I said, our heroes, we asked questions. Because we respected these guys, and we wanted to know what made them who they are. And so, I don't know if that still goes on today or not. You know, but that's how it was for us anyway.
I do have a couple more questions for you, but I know you were going to play for us at some point. Would you rather wait till the end to do that, or do you want to do it now?
Yeah, go ahead with your questions. Yeah, we can.
All right. Well, you know, I've been asking musicians kind of questions because that's the way my head works. But there's a couple of just fun ones here. And one of the board members wanted to know, what's the craziest thing that ever happened to you on stage?
Well,
There is a Pismo story.
there is a Pismo.
Do you want to tell it? I'll tell it.
Yeah.
And it's on, there's a video of it because one year at the Pismo Jubilee, they posted a little bit of every band, and they posted what happened to us. We had just finished a tune, and Joe was making an announcement for the next tune, and he couldn't get the microphone to go back in the clip.
Now, in my defense, it wasn't the correct clip for that microphone.
Come on. So it was getting embarrassing how long it was taking. So I just walked over to the mic, and all I had to say was, just how did you manage to have 2 kids? Well, he lost total control of the audience. I mean, the audience just exploded. Our drummer, he's got about a 5-second delay before he gets the joke, you know? And it's just, the audience just went, he couldn't get control of what was going on, and he didn't have any comeback. What could you say, you know? My own personal opinion is that I like Pismo because Pismo, you're very close to your audience. And as I said, music's a language. I think one of the worst things for jazz is when it went on the concert stage, because all of a sudden you're just far from your audience, and that can and people tend to play it. I hear performances where they're playing by, once again, how fast they can play, or how you know what they're going after isn't they're taking the life out of it. You know, as long as it has the life. A lot of the early jazz musicians preferred playing for dancers because their argument was you had people moving along with you. You know, in Louis Armstrong's biography, when he talks about, you know, the clubs that were in New Orleans, and he said the whole building would start shaking with the music. You know, it's just. But when you have that closeness with the audience and the rapport, where it's a back and forth thing, it's a two-way thing. That's what's going to keep jazz alive. So, should we play something for them?
This would be great. Hey, beautiful. Well, thank you both so much. It's been wonderful talking to you and hearing your insights, and we look forward eagerly to when you can come back to Pismo and we can all be together again.
Thank you.
God bless.
Thank you again very much.
Again, thank you for your support today, and thank you for enjoying the show. Please tune back in where I will enlighten you about the Central Coast on another topic. Bye for now.